Hello, nerds. Are you tired of having to, interact with human beings to figure out what's going on in the world? Well, good, because you have just tuned into the Week in Nerdom, where we like to filter out all of that pesky sunlight and human interaction and bring you all of the news that's worth talking about. So, don't forget to grab your dubby and let's get into it, shall we? So music news. Did you know, before we get to the news, did you know that in Dungeons & Dragons, the bard's job is more than just to play the lute and seduce dragons? No, actually, it is also to cast vicious mockery, which is basically what about half of the bands we're about to talk to do for a living, just with more breakdowns. Okay, follow-ups and corrections this week. We do have a follow-up to that bizarre Weezer piece that we talked about previously. Weezer's bass player Scott Schreiner, his wife, Mrs. Lauren Schreiner, is not going to be doing any time for shooting at a suspected thief who was fleeing from the police and subsequently ran through her back property, her and presumably her husband's back property, while the wife of the bass player then pointed her gun at police. She has been granted, a diversion of mental illness from the presiding judge over the case. Which kind of makes sense, because in order to live in California in modern day, you have to be mentally ill. So there you go. New music and or videos. We have a new piece from Hunt the Dinosaur. They have just dropped a new track called Nefarious Outlaws. And I swear it is their very unique version of deathcore. Granted, very unique, but also featuring a banjo? Now, I know that sounds like a joke, but my neck is definitely not getting a laugh out of this. I really don't know what I'm going to do with this information, aside from the fact that I really know that I like it. So you should go check it out too. Speaking of music things that I really didn't expect, we have a new track from Juvenile. That's right, we talk about other things besides just aggressive music on this channel. When it has to do with random things from my childhood, Juvenile's back with Manny Fresh and D1 for a new song called He Gone. It would seem that the Dirty South is actually alive and well, and this is kind of just like a straight up fun track from a dude we haven't heard from in a while, so definitely go check this one out too. Next up in new music, we have pop punk granddads. New Found Glory have announced a new album titled Listen Up, and it is going to be coming out February of 2026, so we still have a few months yet, but they did just drop the first single off it called Laugh It Off, and guess what? Sounds exactly like New Found Glory. It would seem that some things just never change, and in this instance, that's not really a good thing. Then we have a new music video from the Acacia Strain for their song Swamp Mentality. It's heavy, it's aggressive, it's angry. It's the Acacia Strain, and if you know, you know, and if you don't, well then your ears are probably better off that way anyway. And then rounding out the new music section, we have a collaboration that kind of sounds very interesting on paper, being Chad Pyle and Hayden Pedigo. First, I'm really hearing of Hayden Pedigo, but I'm kind of intrigued by this. They released a new song together called Demon Time off of their upcoming EP that they're doing together. It really has this cool, spooky aesthetic, like it's very atmospheric, but it's also very anticlimactic. It's really kind of like waiting for a jump scare that just never comes. And then that puts us into tours and festivals, and we have a cancellation to start things off here. We have, this one's gonna be a rough one for Avenged Sevenfold fans, so buckle up, because the news is now known that Avenged Sevenfold have postponed the entirety of their fall 2025 Latin Latin America tour because frontman M. Shadows is dealing with a pretty significant, from the sounds of things, pretty significant vocal injury. In a statement released by the band, Shadows says it, quote, "It breaks my heart to have to do this," unquote, explaining that after the last leg of their last tour, his voice just wasn't recovering. His doctors have put him on vocal rest for the foreseeable future, which means screaming at thousands of fans every night is kind of off the table. He has stressed, though, so it's not all is not lost. Shadows has stressed that this is not a cancellation of the tour, it is merely a postponement, and the band have already gotten to work and started rescheduling dates for 2026. Understandably, it is a bit of a bummer for fans, but I mean, you can't really fault the guy for trying to take care of his primary instrument, right? So better a postponement now than permanent damage down the road, right? And then, in a bit of a happier note, we have Sonic Temple announcements next year in Columbus, Ohio. They have already started announcing bands for the lineup. This year's lineup is pretty beefy. To start, we have Behemoth, Deathclock, and Cradle of Filth all having been added to the bill already. Festival is scheduled for May 14th and it runs through the 17th of 2026. Which then puts us into our regular ass news for music this week. We got the first trailer for the Ozzy and Sharon documentary called Coming Home. This is Ozzy Osbourne, obviously, on the BBC. It's set to premiere sometime in 2025. There is still not a proper release date for it, but it does promise an unfiltered look at their move back to the UK during Ozzy's ongoing health issues. Because honestly, if there's one thing we haven't seen enough of, it is the uncensored side of the Osbournes. All jokes aside, like, this looks kind of great. It's definitely going to be worth a watch. Go check out the trailer. Let's move on. And in speculative, but also kind of obvious news as far as music goes, it looks like Lamb of God is about to hit us with some new music at some point this week. The band have been dropping a bunch of hints all over the place that are definitely pointing for new music. So I guess it's time that we all just start practicing our Randy Blythe stomp across the living room until they release said new music, right? That's what we have for regular ass news. Let's talk now about our suggestion for the week. If you're looking to get into the spirit of Halloween, being as we are now officially into October, which is Halloween all month, right? If you're looking to get into the properly creepy mood, you must do yourself a favor. We've suggested this record previously on the channel, and this is the perfect time of year to get back into it. But you must go listen to the original soundtrack to the 1977 version of Suspiria. It is written and composed by the Italian prog rock band. It's kind of borderline proto-metal, but the name of the band is Goblin. It is without a doubt one of the most unsettling and effective horror scores you have ever listened to. It is very honestly a masterclass in horror and dread and atmosphere that most modern composers, especially movie composers, really just hope they can achieve at some point in their career. So that is your suggestion this week. Go get the soundtrack to the 1977 version of Suspiria, the Goblin soundtrack, because it is chef's kiss. Okay, before we go any further, I need to say this. This show is powered by two things. First, my righteous indignation for all of the things in pop culture. That's kind of a given. You've dealt with that for years. Second, Dubby. It is smooth, clean focus so you can keep gaming, working, whatever you're doing that you need a little bit more energy for as long as you need to keep doing said thing. The s'mores flavor, very specifically, is ridiculously good and like dangerously. This is my third tub. So if you want to see what the hell a s'mores energy drink tastes like, and trust me, you really do, go to dubby.gg, use code generallynerdy at checkout, get 10% off, and I don't know what else to tell you. Again, dubby.gg is the web address. Go purchase whatever the hell you're going to purchase from them, probably the s'mores, and use code generally nerdy at checkout, and you will get 10% off of whatever is in the cart at the time. And don't forget to tell them that I sent you, because, I get some kickback from that. This is a sponsor spot. You also get some amazing energy drinks in the mail. So, it's a win-win. Gaming and Tech this week, trying to understand modern technology is kind of like trying to read the Necronomicon. You're really just trying to learn something cool, but there's probably about a 90% chance you're going to make your refrigerator sentient and angry. All right, follow-ups and corrections. There is actually nothing to follow up on or correct this week in Gaming and Tech. Looks like we got it all right last time, so let's keep going. So then, trailers is where we go next, and in trailers we got a new gameplay trailer for the Tokan, whatever the hell, the new Marvel fighting game that's coming out that's not by Capcom. It's showing off Spider-Man and Ghost Rider, so new characters added to the roster, and it looks fine, I guess. I really am kind of lost on the hype for this. It is not MVC. It's something else that seems like it's trying to be MVC, so I don't know, maybe somebody else can explain this one to me in the comments. Meanwhile, I guess technically this could have gone in the follow-ups and corrections, but it's technically a trailer. It is from Sony State of Play. Last week we talked about the State of Play. It hadn't aired by the time I was filming, and so I said if there was anything significant, it would get inserted into last week's episode. We didn't do an insert into last week's episode because there was really just this one thing, and it's Wolverine finally got a freaking trailer. The new Insomniac Games game is definitely on the right track. It looks absolutely brutal and fantastic. The game is currently slated for release in fall of 2026, so we still have a whole nother year before we get to actually play this thing. It is only going to be on PlayStation 5, just like Spider-Man, which was also Insomniac Games. It is absolutely about time we got a proper M-rated Wolverine title either way, even though I'm just going to have to watch a bunch of Let's Plays online. Though, I think it'd be interesting if eventually this whole cross-platform thing that Sony and Microsoft are playing with benefits the Microsoft side maybe even a little bit. Either way, like I said, this is kind of the only thing that was really worth noting in the State of Play from Sony last week, which is why we're putting it here. Also, 2 words, Omega Red. Hell yes, that's 4. And then speaking of icons in pop culture, we have a new Halloween game on the way, and the trailer is suggesting controversial new supernatural take on Michael Myers. And to that I say, the character has been retconned more than a superhero from comic books at this point, so what's one more weird timeline, I guess, all right? Now let's get into some regular-ass news for gaming and tech. We've got a bit to bite off on this one. So first thing in regular-ass news, Epic Games has pulled the Peacemaker character from the Fortnite store after players pointed out that it bore a very striking resemblance, or it's the emote. It's a new dance that's based on the opening sequence of the current season of Peacemaker. It resembles a Nazi salute, kind of sort of resembles a swastika all at the same time. It's a little weird. Someone in the approvals department over at Epic Games was clearly asleep at the wheel with this one. Yikes. And then, for potentially the largest piece of news this week in gaming and tech, we have EA, Electronic Arts, the company that you love to hate, that, puts loot boxes inside of loot boxes, inside of other loot boxes, it would seem. Well, they have just been acquired, so they kind of sold themselves, it would seem, for $55 billion with a B dollars. And who exactly are the buyers, you might be asking? Well, funny thing that you did. It's 3 different groups that are purchasing it together. First of which being Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, which you'll recognize because they just bought a good portion of Evo as well. It's them alongside Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, his company I didn't write down in the notes because, of course, I take amazing notes. Also, I misspoke. It is 2 investors, not 3. It's just those 2 entities, Public Investment Fund and Kushner's company. It's officially the biggest leveraged buyout of a public company ever. So, what does that mean for gamers? Well, in the short term, probably nothing. But in the long term, we'll have to just wait and see if this is just simply an investment trying to get the eyes of the American audience, or maybe the Saudi government is going to try and start influencing these games that are coming out of EA. And the next version of Battlefield is going to have a new mode that's called Disappear the Journalist. What, too soon? In other news that's going to make you scratch your head at least a little bit, and this is coming on the tails of the congressional admission, I guess you can call it, that Alphabet had last week about censoring YouTube channels. Well, this week, Alphabet is still in the news for new news. They are Google's parent company, if you don't know, and Google is YouTube's parent company. And, well, it would seem that they are settling with the Trump, and they're paying him $22 million. Actually, some of the estimates that I've seen on this one go as high as $24 million. But because it's an out-of-court settlement, we won't probably know explicitly what that number is. But they're paying $22 million to settle a lawsuit with President Trump over claims that YouTube censored him post January 6th. It seems like they really just wanted to make this go away, right? And then it's tech, so like it's a lot of weirdness, but this one's exceptionally weird. OpenAI is reportedly planning on developing a TikTok-style social media app to coincide with the launch of Sora 2, their new video generation platform. Well, that kind of sort of stealth launched just the other day. There hasn't been much fanfare about it, but it did happen, and we still don't have this new TikTok-like social media experience. But that is still pretty dang weird, right? Because the world definitely just needs another app to rot your brain out while you endlessly doom scroll on your couch. Only this one's gonna be better because it's all generated by AI. All right, so you've heard of vibe coding, right? Just the TLDR in case you haven't, because not everybody is up on the lingo with the kids, but just in case you don't know, TLDR is vibe coding is when you go to an AI bot and you say, I want an app that does this. And then the AI bot writes the code for you so that you don't have to write it. You just tell it what you want and it does all the work for you. Well, Microsoft is now trying to make vibe working a thing. They're going to implement AI in its Office suite, inside of Microsoft's Office suite, that is going to allow you to do a day's work effectively-ish based off of a simple text prompt. It sounds like it's the perfect tool for, anyone who wants to make it look like they're doing work without actually doing the work, which is kind of all of corporate America, I feel like. And in a move that is sure to shake the Mushroom Kingdom at its core, Doug Bowser, yes, that is his real name, Doug Bowser is stepping down as president of Nintendo America, rather. No word yet as to who will be replacing him, but my money is on a guy whose last name somehow turns out to be Ganondorf. And then in a blast from the past, 1998 specifically, we have Fatal Fury 2, The Newcomers, has secretly been re-released 27 years later with new rollback netcode. It just kind of appeared on Steam, which is a pleasant surprise for fighting game fans and also Street Fighter lore fans, because those two are the same universe, aren't they? And then let's round out Gaming and Tech with our suggestion for the week. Suggestion this week in Gaming and Tech is System Shock 2. It is a 1999 masterpiece on many platforms that just recently got a remaster. It was last year in June. It blends FPS, RPG, and survival horror elements into one of the most terrifying and influential gaming experiences of all time. It is the direct ancestor of games like BioShock and now Outer Worlds, and its villain, Shodan, makes GLaDOS look like a kindly old grandmother. It honestly holds up surprisingly well, especially the remaster, so educate yourselves and go play. That is your suggestion for the week. In comic books and books this week, reading a comic book from the late 90s is a little bit of a trip. Everyone has these giant shoulders. They've got pouches all over, just pouches for freaking days. And all of the women are drawn like their spines might be made out of silly putty, it looks like. Like, that's just... It was a simpler, more anatomically incorrect time. Follow-ups and corrections for comic books and books. Nope, still perfect. Moving on. And then trailers this week, also nothing to speak of. Apparently, comic book industry has decided to keep their comic books on the page and not make videos about them. Go figure. So then, regular ass news is the place that we end up, and we have Todd McFarlane's Spawn universe is about to get a visit from an old friend. We have Greg Capullo is making a return to the pages of the Spawn universe in the form of a new cover book for a book that is coming out this year called I Saw Santa. In this comic book, it centers around, you probably guessed this already, demonic Santa Claus. DC Comics, not to be outdone by the movies, is at it again, revealing yet another Kryptonian secret that is said to rival the parentage revelation from the movies, which honestly, I'm really not even going to spend the time to spoil for you, because who's keeping up with it really, and does it really matter at this point? Because, I'm not saying that because I don't like comic books anymore, because I do still buy comic books, just not so much DC currently, but either way, the reason it doesn't really matter is because it'll just be retconned in a month anyway. I don't know, if you really must know, it's something to do with sun crystals or something, and extra Superman powers, and it's just a little ridiculous, I think. And then for us 90s kids, this one's for you. There is a new Dynamite Entertainment book that has been announced that is the Gargoyles Winter Special, coming out this winter in 2025. Yes, that is right. You heard me correctly. Gargoyles are absolutely still a thing, and good for them. I love the Gargoyles, so yeah, that's kind of awesome. But then our kind of biggest story this week, which is interesting considering what it's about, is about Axl Rose, the Guns N' Roses frontman. He has apparently teamed up with Sumerian Comics, who this is the first time I'm hearing of them, but he's teamed up with Sumerian Comics to release a graphic novel based on the album Appetite for Destruction. Yes, you heard me correctly. The man who is very famously, let's say, difficult to work with, is releasing a comic book. The book promises to delve into the stories and themes from the songs that derive from the one of the greatest rock and roll albums of all time. I honestly have no idea if this is going to be a masterpiece or an absolute train wreck. But one thing I am absolutely certain of, and much like Axl in the 80s, it's definitely not going to be boring. I am also morbidly curious about how they're going to translate the song Welcome to the Jungle into comic panel form. That's what we got for regular ass news. Let's talk suggestions this week. If you want to read a DC Comics event where the villains actually come out on top, then might I suggest Forever Evil. It is a story arc that happened 2013 to 2014, wherein the crime syndicate from Earth 3, which is the evil version of the Justice League, in case you didn't know, well, they basically invade Earth Prime and win, at least for a while. It is actually kind of a dark yet still rather fun ride that puts Lex Luthor in front and center as the hero, in spite of however he might feel about that. Honestly, when it came out, it got a lot of flack, but going back and reading it recently, it gives you all of the what if the villains won vibes that you could really ask for out of a comic book. So go check out Forever Evil. That is your suggestion for the week. All right, quick commercial break for your regularly scheduled nerd out. I see you there, consuming and not contributing. Well, we gotta fix that. So here's the deal. I'm gonna make it quick and I'm gonna make it real. Hit the like and the subscribe as well, and give that share button a click and ring that notification bell. Don't make me come through this screen. The algorithm is the enemy, and every click is a bullet, and every like and share is a grenade. Now go and do your part, soldier. TV streaming this week. Did you ever notice how in science fiction shows, no matter how advanced the civilization, the people always speak perfect English? It's either that or they have this obvious MacGuffin of a pen that is actually a universal translator. Or instead of a pen, it might be a worm in their ear. Which honestly is a good thing, because I might be nerdy, but I'm not nerdy enough to learn Klingon just so I can fully appreciate Star Trek. Alright, so follow-ups and corrections in TV streaming. We have this is technically just a quick piece of news that really didn't fit anywhere else, so we're putting it here because it is quick, even though this preamble is making it quite a bit longer. We have Netflix's Haunted Hotel, which is an animated series that you should probably be watching because it's actually pretty funny, has officially been renewed for a second season, apparently. It would seem that enough of us are actually watching it as it stands right now to justify the second season of Spooky Shenanigans, so there we go. And then the big follow-up from last week that got me all of the hate in the shorts sections, with the Jimmy Kimmel thing, like I said, like the text read in the short that I posted just a few days ago, because it was already recorded and I needed to get it up, but it's still, there's some valid points in there. Either way, Jimmy Kimmel is officially back 100%. The standout affiliates for ABC that were Nexstar and Sinclair, that was approximately 1/4 of the target audience, have both folded in the time since we last spoke. It didn't take very long. It was Sinclair was the second of which to fold under the pressure. Nexstar was the first. Nexstar folded about 2 days in. Sinclair was the day following. This is kind of an official sign that the drama is over. However, because every silver cloud or every thundercloud has a silver lining, there we go, that's how that goes. In initial reports, I have yet to verify these, but I have heard initial reporting say that Kimmel's numbers are now down approximately 70% from before he decided to tell half of his audience that they were worthless. And then new trailers this week actually don't exist. I'm sure they all are hanging out over on the OpenAI social media app that still is not out there. So that puts us into regular ass news. It is a plot twist out of a feel-good sequel that nobody really saw coming. Tim Allen, yes, the Buzz Lightyear and Home Improvement guy, that Tim Allen, he has taken to the social medias, he has made it known that he has decided to forgive the drunk driver who killed his father when he was young. This change in heart you can blame on one Miss Erica Kirk, it would seem. When Allen saw her go full-on viral saint at her husband Charlie's funeral service, publicly forgiving the kid that killed Charlie Kirk, it would seem Tim Allen saw that and thought to himself, well, if she can do it, why the hell can't I? And honestly, that's kind of a beautiful thing, and you gotta highlight the good stuff, right? And now, continuing on this wave of really interesting good stuff, as it were, you better hold on to your hats, because I think hell might have frozen over. In a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter, I believe, Variety, I take that back. In a recent interview with Variety, staunch Hollywood liberal Sean Penn, Sean freaking Penn, yes, the guy who's done all of the stupid liberal things in the media since as long as I can remember. Yes, that Sean Penn. He was asked about the death of Charlie Kirk in said interview with Variety. And instead of the expected condemnation and justification and whatever you might have been expecting out of somebody who is insanely crazy liberal like Sean Penn, he said, and I quote, "We need Charlie Kirk in politics." What? He went on to say that while he disagrees with Kirk on many things, he believes Kirk is an, quote, authentic voice that is necessary in the current political landscape. again. What? This is, just like you're hearing, don't believe your lying ears, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sean Penn, who is a man who has never, ever been shy about his left-leaning politics / antics, he is defending a conservative firebrand like Charlie Kirk. And firebrand might be even a little too strong for Charlie, but still. When I saw this, I had to read the article twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. And then I had to ask myself, what's happening in this world? Is the simulation breaking? I think I'm here for it though. Which rounds us out very nicely to another kind of simulation breaking series. That's a horrible transition. We're talking about suggestions this week. And your suggestion this week is The Fall of the House of Usher over on Netflix. It is Mike Flanagan season on Netflix. While I would usually put Midnight Mass first, I think Fall of the House of Usher is just perfect for the mood we're trying to set right now. This is Flanagan kind of weaving a new masterpiece. I don't think he'll ever beat Haunting of Hill House, but this one comes super close to being just as good. We have multiple Poe stories being woven together to tell one overarching, also Poe story. It is one big, cohesive narrative about a very corrupt family getting their karmic comeuppance, if you will. And that karmic comeuppance is in some of the most brutal ways imaginable. It's dark, it's very smart, it's brilliantly acted, and it's your suggestion for the week. That is your TV suggestion. Go watch Fall of the House of Usher over on Netflix. You know, it's easy to call yourself a music nerd, but can you back it up? Do you want to wear something that separates the true connoisseurs from the edgelord soy boys? Well, that's where this comes into play. It's our new music nerd shirt. It features the one and only Lon Chaney version of the Phantom of the Opera from the 1925 film. And the text is written in a font that is so brutal as to be almost illegible. It is honestly the perfect combination of highbrow horror history and lowbrow guttural noise. You will definitely confuse your parents and your normie friends and then attract a whole different breed of weirdos, which, if you know, you know. So go to generally-nerdy.creator-spring.com and wear your nerd cred on your chest. So let's talk about some movies. Do you remember when going to the movies was an event? You'd get a giant bag of popcorn, you'd get a soda the size of your head, and then you'd go sit down with those floors that were sticky for reasons you didn't really want to think about. Now you can stream your brand new favorite movie in your living room on your phone wearing sweatpants. While it is more convenient to do it that way, I do miss the existential dread that is the sticky floor at the movie theater. Okay, follow-ups and corrections for movies this week. President Trump is floating a 100% tariff on foreign-made movies to claw back Hollywood jobs from overseas. I feel like we've talked about this before because this is not the first time he's floated said idea. However, this time he is calling out studios for dodging American crews specifically. In a timely gut punch, Marvel's packing up the Avengers shoot and they're moving out of Georgia, headed over to the UK, where they're getting some sort of weird tax incentives that are just making bargain basement prices. It's kind of like trying to make America great again by making Atlanta a ghost town somehow. And then in casting news, we have WWE superstar Drew McIntyre has been announced as joining. And then in casting news, we have WWE superstar Drew McIntyre has been announced as the newest part of the Henry Cavill-led Highlander reboot cast. There can apparently be only one plus a giant dude with a Scottish accent. Next up, we have Marvel's Thunderbolts. After it scraped together approximately $382 million in the worldwide box office, which is $100 million domestic and then everything else overseas. Before everyone who hadn't seen it yet just kind of collectively shrugged and said, I'll wait until it hits Disney+. Well, once it did on August 27th, apparently the streaming numbers kind of exploded at 105% more eyeballs in the first 6 days than when it was on premium VOD, which was enough to clock it in at 702 million minutes viewed, which then landed it on the Nielsen SoundScan. Or Nielsen movie chart, whatever, the Nielsen numbers. It seems like this might be the new Marvel playbook. They did this with Captain America Brave New World, which kind of limped over 415 million in theaters, but when it hit domestic streaming, it had 750 million minutes viewed. So it looks like that must-see era for Marvel is deader than a skipped side quest in an RPG. Folks just seem to be binging their anti-heroes from the comfort of home these days. And speaking of Marvel projects over on Disney+, it seems previously announced Nova and Strange Academy series, both of them now completely dead in the water. And another one bites the dust. In much, much better news, Josh Gad has posted the first on-set picture from the set of Spaceballs 2, confirming the return, confirming that filming is underway. We got the cast photo reveals Mel Brooks, Rick Moranis, Daphne Zunga, and Bill Pullman all back in their Spaceballs glory. Ludicrous speed, go! And then the animated Spider-Man, the rounding out of the trilogy over at Sony, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse has a new, slightly earlier release date. You can now expect it June 18th of 2027, and don't necessarily spend all of that saved time in one place. That puts us into trailers for the movie section. We have the first trailer dropped for a new movie called The Astronaut. Actually, no, this is the second trailer because we talked about this previously, but it is a new science fiction flick starring Kate Mara and Lawrence Fishburne that looks like tense, slightly horrific thriller that is kind of right up my alley, so go check it out. And then we have the trailer for The Bride, which is Maggie Gyllenhaal's take on The Bride of Frankenstein. This one is turning out a little wild, but not necessarily in any kind of good way. We have Christian Bale, almost unrecognizable in his makeup as the monster. We have Jessie Buckley starring as the titular bride. The trailer gives off this kind of weird attempt at punk rock vibe, feeling much less like a classic monster movie and more like a twisted, bizarre, kind of gothic version of Bonnie and Clyde. It's chaotic, and it kind of looks like nothing else out there. Once again, Maggie Gyllenhaal is directing, and it just kind of looks like she's having trouble finding the right voice to tell her monster love story, which, I don't know, I guess that would be kind of hard, so we'll see how that turns out. Finally, in the trailer section, we got a bit of a featurette that was released for Mortal Kombat 2. It includes our first real look at some of the film's very gruesome fatalities. It definitely looks like they're leaning into the gore. Still not a whole lot that we can glean as far as how close to the original mythology they're going, but either way, it's gonna be some fan service. You can guarantee that. All right, now regular ass news is where we find ourselves. We're going, Disney has shaken up its release schedule. Where once was supposed to be a untitled Marvel movie that had a lot of speculation around what could it be? Is this where Blade is? Well, now it's officially not Marvel anymore. It is going to be The Simpsons. There is a new Simpsons movie in the work, and it is taking one of said untitled Marvel movies on the release slate, which feels significant somehow. And then our only other piece of news this week in regular ass news, it has to do with Kenan Thompson, the SNL alumnus, who's basically unkillable. He's just gonna stay a part of the cast forever. He is diving into producing two pretty crazy new projects. The first one being a remake of the bonkers 80s slasher Sleepaway Camp, and the second one, that also being with original director Robert Hiltzik. He'll be doing the scripting in order to, keep those cult vibes intact. And then we have, where is it? Where the hell? My notes suck. Biopic. There we go. Biopic for Macho Man Randy Savage, titled Macho, because what else would it be? This one is being penned by Macho Man's brother and also a fan of the Macho Man. Thompson Keenan, who crossed paths with Randy back in the day, gushed that he's, quote, beyond excited to slam this story onto screens because puns are a thing. Oh, also, if that wasn't enough, Kenan Thompson's plate just isn't quite full enough. He's also dropping a horror comedy Halloween story. Sure, because nothing says family fun like being spooked by overpriced plastic pumpkins. And then our suggestion for the week in movies is the stop-motion classic, a Tim Burton produced film, Coraline. It is actually up for free on Tubi right now. If you've never seen it, you are kind of missing out. It is one of the most creative, potentially, and genuinely creepy kids movies that is based on Neil Gaiman's book of the same name. It is directed by Henry Selick, who I take that back. It's not produced by Tim Burton. It's made by Henry Selick, who is the guy who did Nightmare Before Christmas. It's beautiful, it's unsettling, it's going to sit with you for a while, and that's kind of a great thing, actually. That's your suggestion for the week. Go check out Coraline, which you can watch for free on Tubi. Okay, here it is, the part in the show where I try and hawk my digital wares like some sort of modern street urchin. Yes, we have merch. And yes, you should probably buy it. The latest design is one that I'm quite fond of, and it is for all of you music snobs out there. It is the Music Nerd shirt featuring the original 1925 Phantom of the Opera, looking creepy like only Lon Chaney can do. Also featuring a font that looks like a bunch of angry sticks, if we're being quite honest. It is quite honestly the best way to let people know that you listen to bands that they've probably never heard of without ever actually having to engage them in conversation. It basically makes you a walking billboard for your own impeccable taste. So, if you will, go support independent content like the stuff I'm giving you here on the channel. If you would kindly go to generally-nerdy.creator-spring.com and pick up this shirt, or maybe one of the other dozen or so designs that I have up there. It will go a long way into helping me keep this channel alive, so I can quit the day job.
Maybe. It's classified.
And now, welcome to the Rumor Mill, the only place where unsourced claims and, quote, I heard this from a guy who said he works for Nintendo, are treated with the utmost respect and like they were gospel, because that's why rumors are fun. Remember to take everything here with a giant planet-sized grain of salt. Let's get into it. We have no confirmations or refutations. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them. We also have no new sources for old rumors. It seems that part of the rumor mill has run dry. However, we do have new rumors to sink our teeth into, and this is going to be a bit of a thing, so let's get into it. Rumor has it, first up and foremost, Star Wars Starfighter. This is potentially the biggest damn rumor we have, the most shocking or divisive rumor we have. Star Wars Starfighter, Sean Levy's galactic joyride with Ryan Gosling as a non-force sensitive guardian, Amy Adams as a Jedi mom, and a pint-sized Force whiz kid named Flynn Gray is basically a setup for Rey. It seems they're going to be sending said Force-sensitive kid, Force whiz kid rather, is what the script says. It seems they're going to be sending him to live with Rey, a la Baby Yoda's drop-off with Luke. The chatter from podcaster John Roca and a plethora of ex-insiders paints it as Disney's sly nudge to crown Daisy Ridley as the sequel trilogy's forever queen, especially in The Hollywood Reporter, which has dubbed her the franchise's North Star. Really? Release date is still locked at May 28th of 2027, with Matt Smith and Mia Goth also somewhere in the mix in this little crazy pot we got going here. Because nothing says fresh start like recycling the delivery service trope. Next up, Uber Eats for midi-chlorians. Likelihood on this one, almost there but not quite. We're gonna put this one at about 40% because it sounds just real enough to be fake. It seems we have another leak on our hands. This time it is a leaked trailer for the new Masters of the Universe movie. It was spotted unfinished in a theater with watermarks and all, as promising a peek at Nicholas Galestine's Prince Adam. I forgot that was his name, so I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce it. Zapping Eternia for his He-Man glow-up, complete with I Have the Power of Thunder and early clashes against Jared Leto's Skeletor, who apparently nails the cartoon menace despite all of the green haze. Tone-wise, according to the people who have seen this, quote-unquote, it seems that it's striking something akin to the first Shazam movie, which isn't bad. And, you know, just in case you forgot, June 5th of 2026 is when it is supposed to be hitting theaters. So, likelihood that this leak is real, we're going to say about 25%. I don't know, just, there's a couple of things in here that just seem a little bit too vague, I guess. And also, nothing says by the power of Grayskull, like waiting 2 more years for plastic sword fights. Ugh. We have the first of 3 Spider-Man brand new, or what is it? Spider-Man, where the hell did it go? Brand New Day, that's what it was. Spider-Man Brand New Day. First of 3 rumors for Spider-Man Brand New Day. That is, the main villain apparently is said to be a female character. Some insiders pointing to the potential casting role for Sadie Sink. Others saying that the character is going to be a shapeshifter. Not necessarily the two are mutually exclusive, but we're going to put this one at about 65% likely because this seems to have some legs. See what I did there? Gaming rumor, ladies and germs. Dust off the spandex, gamers. Activision's 2009 PlayStation 3/Xbox 360 game Prototype, where you play as a shapeshifter, kind of connecting to our previous story, just dropped a cryptic update on Steam that is featuring testing maps, unearthed cut content, and credits for Remaster Pro's Iron Galaxy. This has sparked some wild speculation, which might not be too wild if you think about it, that there is a remaster in the works for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles. This, if the rumors are true, this would be much more than the very bare bones 2015 port that really barely did anything. Likelihood for this one, honestly, we're going to say about 80% on this one, just because I'd be very surprised, considering all of the information we have, if this doesn't happen. It's quite a safe bet, it would seem. We also have new talk of a Lord of the Rings game in the works that is going to be a la the Hogwarts Legacy game that we, you know, kind of all loved collectively from a year or 2. Has it been 2 years now? From whenever the hell it launched ago. Likelihood on this one, we're gonna hit at 70%. This is not the best source necessarily, but it does make a lot of sense, which means someone in corporate America is probably trying to capitalize on it. And then quickly, let's get to those other 2 Spider-Man Brand New Day rumors, first of which being Charlie Cox's Daredevil is said to be swinging into the movie screen for this one. which really would be a long overdue team-up movie between Daredevil and Spider-Man. It's something that we've all been speculating for years. We now have insider information that suggests it might be happening. We're gonna put this one at about 75%, and I feel like that's kind of generous, but that's just how hopeful I am. And then the other one here is John Barenthal's Punisher, according to a completely different rumor, is said to be skull-cracking with Tombstone, which would imply a post-Wilson Fisk kind of gang war epic, right? This one we're gonna put at about 60%, just because it is Daniel Rickman that said this one, who is usually pretty good. This just feels like a whole lot of ground to cover in one Spider-Man movie. And now, easily the biggest rumor for the episode, and it is James Gunn has been talking about the Batman casting, his Brave and the Bold movie, if you will. And in all of this talking, he's been saying some kind of cryptic things about Damian Wayne. Reading between the lines of his statement in a recent interview, I believe it was with THR, might have been Variety, but don't quote me on either of those. Him saying that things are in flux. We're going to go between the lines on that one and say, it seems that the vocabulary he's using is meant to allude to the fact that Damian might not be Bruce's proper son, or at the very least his biological son in this version. The implication then being, if you extrapolate that just a little bit further, that Damian will have different, somehow non-traditional origin into this universe. Could he be a clone? Could he be some sort of artificial creation by the League of Assassins? Gunn is being intentionally vague, like he does, but the idea that he would alter one of the most fundamental aspects of a major member of the Bat family like Damian Wayne is kind of sending ripples through the community. Likelihood that there is going to be some sort of change, not necessarily the clone thing, but some sort of change to Damian's origin story. I'm going to put that at about 85%. Because this would be a massive, very controversial change, but Gunn's not really opposed to that, and we know this these days. That's all of the new rumors we have. I am going to kind of speculate real quick, because that Batman stuff is just a little too juicy. So, Batman, the rumor might actually have a little bit of a grain of truth to it. James Gunn swore that his Superman movie didn't feature a clone, let alone a clone of Superman. And yet somehow that bizarre, Ultraman thing, abomination happened in that movie, so here we are. So it would seem that when Gunn gets weirdly specific about something, that he's very likely doing perceivably the opposite, or the exact opposite. I'm not for sure he's going to be a clone necessarily, but it will be something equally as dumb. Like he was created in a Lazarus Pit Cabbage Patch or something absolutely ridiculous. And then for my completely fabricated speculation of the week, the reason that Rick Moranis agreed to come back for Spaceballs 2 is because the producers gave into his demands to give Dark Helmet an upgraded state-of-the-art espresso machine in his suit. You gotta get thirsty under that giant helmet eventually, right? All right, so let's get into housekeeping for the week. It's going to be real quick for housekeeping because it's all stuff we've already talked about. This is, we're coming up on a dark week. Next week, there's not going to be an episode. I don't even know if I'm going to have time to get any reaction videos done or anything like that. So we're just going to have to be reliant on the shorts over on the Clips channel. So no proper episode this coming week. We might not even have any sort of posting at all because the things have come up and it's going to be kind of a hassle to do the trip that has been planned for 4 months at this point. So there is that. And then when we get back, we're almost to the off season. So things are going to be kind of changing for a little while that way too. That being said, that is everything that is fit to print for nerd news this week. I appreciate your faces, nerds. I come back next week because the content never sleeps and there will always be something new to complain about. Either way, I appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. If you can do the hype thing, then, go for that, because I still haven't figured out what the hell's going on with the hype button. But yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around. We're going to see you in probably 2 weeks, actually. And until then, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.